Not quite famous, not quite famous, not quite famous.
We're almost there.
Not quite famous.
We're almost there.
Not quite famous.
But we're not quite famous.
Hello, and welcome to episode number 7 of the Not Quite Famous podcast. I'm your host, Greg Asdourian, as always. Welcome back. We missed a week, mainly due to some technical issues. I, being the graceful creature that I am, in combination with some craziness from my 4-year-old, swatted my MacBook Pro by accident off a countertop, which resulted in the LCD screen getting a nice diagonal crack across it. So it left me computerless for a little while. And that combined with having to go on the road for a couple days to Reno, which I love, resulted in me not being able to work on this. So I apologize, you guys. We should have had an episode last week and we didn't. So for that, I apologize. But I make up for it this week. This week, we have the amazing Alex Koll. Hilarious comedian. He's great. He's a San Francisco cat that I started out around the same time as. Brilliantly funny. You guys might have seen him on CONAN, or a little bit before that, he was on Live at Gotham on Comedy Central. Hilarious cat. Yeah, he also did HBO Canada's Funny as Hell, which feels like a really harsh title for something for HBO Canada, but whatever. Hilarious comedian. I'm glad we finally got to sit down and talk to him. This one was recorded over the phone, so it's going to be, the audio might be a little fuzzier than you guys are used to, but yeah, it was a great conversation. It was really interesting. We both have infant children, so we kind of bonded over that a little bit. But yeah, it was a great interview. You guys are going to enjoy it thoroughly. He's going to be out here in San Francisco November 24th at Doc's Lab, the amazing, wonderful Doc's Lab that I look forward to having you guys come see me at again. I just did a show there, and I'm actually in the process of setting up some stuff for next year with them, so I'm excited about that. But make sure you come see Alex November 24th at Doc's Lab in San Francisco. I had an interesting 2 weeks since the last time I talked to you guys. I did Roast SF's Roast of the Dominatrix Eve Minax. I was the roast master for that. That was a lot of fun. Got made fun of a lot. Did a lot of fun making. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but it was great. It was a lot of fun. Eve Minax, the Dominatrix that we roasted, is a hilarious lady. She was a lot of fun to work with, a lot of fun to mess around with on stage. She didn't miss a beat. She had a lot of personality, really great. You guys can check her out. Eve Minax, just go ahead and Google her. She's a lot of fun. I got hit with a crop. That happened. Mainly for my wife's amusement. I let them take a picture of her smacking me thoroughly with a crop across the ass. Which is not something that I turned out enjoying. Yeah, turns out getting hit with a crop, not something that's going to turn me on, getting my genitalia all a tingle. It hurt. It hurt a lot. And that was a pretty vanilla thing for her to do, I'm assuming. So, yeah, firmly in the headspace that what Eve does is not for me. That's what I've decided. She is very good at what she does, but I just do not find it sexual at all. Pain and sex just don't go hand in hand with me, unless you're counting emotional pain, and then I'm all about it. Yeah, no, when I was in my 20s, I was the weird, tortured, awkward artist dude, so like emotions and love and pain, it was all the same thing. You know, as I said that, as I sat in a bar and ordered a single plum floating perfume served in a man's hat. No, it was a lot of fun. I love roasts. I love them so much. I have a lot of fun doing them. I grew up watching the Dean Martin celebrity roasts with my dad, so I always loved getting to do a couple of those. They even had a bunch of comics roasting me on my birthday a few years ago. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, and then the night after that, I got to finally go see our good friend of the show, Carly Ozard's show, Midler on the Roof. Yeah, it was amazing. It was spectacular. It was amazing. I loved every moment of it. Carly is ridiculously talented. She has such an amazing voice, such amazing comedic presence. She is a showman like nobody you've ever seen. She's hilarious, had me laughing the whole time. It was such a beautiful, touching, and personal story, and I loved it. I am really glad I got to see it, and I hope all of you got to see it as well. It was a sold-out show, I believe. If there was any room, I couldn't see it. Feinstein's at the Hotel Nico is a beautiful venue, and not a huge place either. Like, seats like maybe 250 tops. So it's like, if you didn't get tickets for it, you are SOL. She's already back to New York, I believe, but she will be back here eventually at some point, I'm sure. Or if you're on the East Coast and you're listening to this, go find a way to watch her live, because she's so goddamn talented. Midler on the Roof was a great show. I cannot say anything bad about it at all. The music was great. Her backup singers that she talked about, the Coker sisters, I believe their name was, they were amazing. They both had beautiful voices, really complimented her well. And yeah, Carly just knocked it out of the park again. I had a lot of fun watching her. I wish I could sing. I wish I could sing better. I wish I could do something like Carly does. That'd be amazing. I guess I just have to sit around and write more fat jokes. But eventually, I'll change my real estate to a theater from a comedy club, and we'll call it art. We'll see how that goes. But you guys, relax. Sorry again it took so long to get another episode out. I apologize. I am the worst. I'm awful. But this won't happen again for a while, because we have a bunch of them in the can, and I'm going to start editing like crazy to make sure we have enough episodes to be released. Oh yeah, and for the record, I still haven't fixed my MacBook Pro. I just bought, or rather acquired, a computer monitor to plug into it so I can still keep working. So that is how dedicated I am to you guys. I didn't want to give them Apple Store my MacBook Pro to get fixed, because I didn't want them to have it so I can't post another episode of the podcast. I hope you guys enjoy it. Alex Koll, amazingly funny. Check him out. Enjoy. We are sitting here with the very funny, very talented Alex Koll. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm a little beat. Been watching the kid for a couple of days solo. Yeah. And doing some work. So I like to burn the candle at both ends. I get into this mode, and then I just forget to sleep. I think from an outward appearance, I would seem like a cocaine addict, but it's really just, I just forget to do it.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I know exactly how you feel. How old's your kid?
He's 8 months.
Oh, okay.
I guess he's coming up on 9, so he's still little, but he's not that little. He's kind of a big guy, but yeah, it's weird. You get these little kids, and I don't think it's a secret that when babies, they just don't know how to go to sleep. They start screaming when they get tired. And you don't realize that you have to learn what to do when you feel tired. I guess for them it's just horrible, so they start screaming. And I guess that never really goes away, because I get tired and I'm like, instead of screaming, I just go into denial, I guess, that I'm tired. It's deflecting, but in a different, more adult, kind of more sad way, I guess.
Yeah, I know exactly what you do. My wife is upstairs with the 2-month-old right now, and it's just no sleep last night at all. Maybe collectively 2 hours if I'm lucky. I think altogether I slept. Yeah.
So is this number 2?
This is number 2. Well, I have a 4-year-old stepson, and I've been in his life since he was just over 2. So I'm like
Okay.
the only, and the biological father's not a part of it, so I'm like the only father figure he has, and so we have a good relationship, and it's great, but I kind of skipped the whole baby thing. I'm like, this is perfect, the instant family, I'm all about it, and then less than a month
And you
after...
had to go blow it.
Yeah.
You had to go blow it.
Less than a month
got
after we got
cocky.
married, she got pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right?
For some reason, I thought your kid was older than that. I thought, I don't know. That's what I go. Social media is a blur, and I have to say that's the only reason I know is because in a passing scroll, I saw a pair of newborn feet attached to your account. So or something like that,
Well, that's what's funny is that like me and you, we kind of were like tail ends of the San Francisco comedy scene. I think I was just starting to like get really serious as you were kind of like on your way out. So I think we kind of missed each other as far as like hang out at like Mike's and things like that. Like when did you start out in SF?
When I actually started really getting into doing stuff in SF was probably like 2002, 2003. I'd started kind of tinkering with doing stand-up, but I lived in the South Bay at the time. I didn't really move to San Francisco until about, 2006, something like that. But if you start comedy in the Bay after a while, everybody's like, you have to. Most of the good stuff's going to be in the city. So
yeah, totally.
I would drive up. I still can't believe I would do this. I would drive up from San Jose to go to the Brainwash and sit there until midnight, go on last, and then get in the car and drive back to San Jose. And I honestly can't believe I did that. It's ridiculous sounding. But, when you start out, you're hungry.
Yeah, no, when I first started out, I was living in Pittsburgh in the East Bay. Because I grew up in San Francisco, but I moved out there and went to high school in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I was like 17 when I started, so the Brainwash was like one of like two places I could even get up. And so, I would just drive out almost the same distance as you from there. And just like, it's insane. The amount of effort we put into just the Brainwash of all places.
Yeah. Sitting there for, 3-4 hours, getting up for 5 minutes, and then, I don't know how I didn't fall asleep behind the wheel and die. Well, that's not true. I probably fell asleep behind the wheel several times, but, I caught myself enough.
Yeah, I look forward to going out in the blazes of falling asleep behind the wheel on the road for some god-awful one-nighter.
Terrible.
Yeah, well, me and you both have, like, responsibilities and families now. We gotta, like, keep our head in the game, I guess.
Yeah. If by the game you mean consciousness.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to reconcile being, like, a working comedian and, like, a present father. I'm trying to figure out where the line is between those two things.
I don't think there is. It's not possible. It's not possible. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? I think there's some folks that do it, but I don't know who they are, and I haven't talked to them, so I'm in the weeds.
Yeah, I did this. I toyed around with this idea of doing a podcast about where I would just interview other comedians that are also like competent parents, and I realized that the guest pool for that was surprisingly smaller than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, there's a week and a half worth of recordings right there. 1.5 episodes.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because most of the comics I meet that are parents that are like not just like absentee fathers and stuff like that. It's like I can think of like 5 of them that I know personally. I think it's like James P. Connolly, Laurie Kilmartin, and now I'm even blanking. Like it's probably even less than 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you started going on or you're about to start going on the road again, right?
Well, kind of. I mean, I pulled off completely from doing any road stuff, almost 100% because of the kid being born. and I just wanted to be here as much as possible the first year at least before I started going and doing that again. And then, then it gets weird. You lose a little momentum, but it's fine. It's nice to be in one place for a while. It made me really realize right now that I haven't done that in a few years. But these upcoming shows are specific. I kind of got those in because I'm working on some new material and trying to get a reference recording, and I wanted to do it someplace that I knew I could get like a little bit of a hometown crowd, and that would be good too.
Yeah, no.
So I didn't even plan on doing this, but it's going to be nice.
Yeah, and I love that too. Like anytime, like I spend a lot of time on the road, and then I realize I'm like, oh, I haven't done a show in San Francisco in 4 months or whatever, or 5 months, 6 months, and it's always nice to be able to do that show. Like, oh wow, I know I can pack an audience. It's a nice little reminder of that every now and then. Yeah,
it is. It's good.
Yeah. So all right. So you started out doing like the open mics at like the Brainwash, places like that in SF. What clubs did you first start hanging out at? Like, because like this is like what 2003 you said, is that what I think?
Well, yeah, that's probably when I kind of was steadily doing stuff. I suppose steadily doing the circuit of like open mics and getting into showcases and stuff like that.
Okay, I actually didn't miss you by that much then, because I was 2005 is when I started. I want to say, so like. Okay. Kind of on the same wavelength. It's like I think you were more with kind of the alt guys though. Like you guys were the guys who ended up starting up like the business and things like that, which is kind of a crowd I never really floated in. Yeah, I'm so cartoonishly not alternative in my stand up like at all, which is I'm a suit and tie in a sea of plaid and skinny jeans.
Well, I think that's a weird kind of caricature of alt comedy, anyway.
Yeah, I know. It's you guys are all those guys. Like, there's so many like brilliantly hilarious alt guys coming out of San Francisco. It's just like it's just so not my wheelhouse. Like I'm very, for lack of a better term, lazy and uncreative in my writing, as I think the way some people would describe it.
Damn, dude.
I don't know. I just like I've all my influences were like old school cats like Rodney Dangerfield and Jackie Mason, because my dad like grew up obsessed with those comedians. So like I just I write just set up punchline, just old school, really simple, just like one linery stuff. And I love all the like really creative, really like clever like alternative stuff. I just could never write that way. It was just not how I was wired, like at all.
Well, I mean, alt's kind of a BS moniker. It really is. I mean, once upon a time, it like the music, label for alt. It just meant that it was a reactive style, and at one point it had that had gravity, that had some weight, and it was very, very much kind of trying to distance itself from, very oversaturated mainstream kind of style. But I think, once that time period's gone, it's kind of, it's not necessarily like that anymore. I guess it's hard for me to, like you said, skinny jeans and plaid and beards and stuff like that. I guess that is a little bit of, the catch-all. It's more become a style thing. But, I mean, if you look across the board about, and who the bullpen of kind of alt darlings or whatever, a lot of it are set-up punch guys. A lot of it, especially now, kind of the people that are moving in like that, there's at least, some. It's a wide spread now. It's a really wide, I think, spread of styles that fall under that name.
Fair enough. I think there's definitely something to that.
I always feel like it's weird that, like, if you look at a lot of the comics that everybody considers alt, outside of a handful of the real new ones, I think none of them look like they're fans. I mean, people flock to, Jesselnick's considered alt. He doesn't look like a hipster dude or anything like that. I mean, there's a spread. I think there's a really big spread.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, here at this point, stand-up is like kind of. I love that the monikers of like what people would assume a comedian was like 15, 20 years ago, completely just shattered. Like it's literally is just like a clusterfuck for lack of a better term. It's like it's all over the place, and which is great because it's like all these really unique. Creative voices, but like it used to be there was only a handful of like really out there acts, like guys like Emo Phillips or things like that. And now it's like no one's afraid to be experimental on stage, which is great. It also leaves these weird blurry lines between stand-up and performance art and things like that. And I think in San Francisco and probably New York at this point too, it's like there's plenty of weird just for the sake of weird, though.
Yeah. But a lot of it's garbage.
Yeah,
honestly, and I like that stuff. I appreciate that it's there. I really like seeing, kind of an array of performance that try and take in stuff that is way in the wings as well as it very solidly fits in the definition of stand-up comedy. But that's me, But there's definitely a lot of it out there that's like, all right, that was cool, but I never want to do that with my time, ever.
Yeah. I was closing out some show. I think this was before the Purple Onion folded up, actually, and it was some bringer show, and there was this like comic. He clearly hadn't been doing it for more than like 3-4 months. And just like had like a sack full of props, and I'm just watching this guy go on stage, and I'm just like, wow, you have no idea, just no idea how complicated. You just made everything for no reason. And like I remember having to follow him, and just like he left all his props all over the stage too. That was the part that always amazed me, which resulted in me spending 5 minutes of my set just talking about all the crap he left on the stage and. It just it's amazing to me like how people think that especially, and I noticed this more and more in San Francisco in the last few years, is that like everyone thinks comedy has to be this thing that you didn't like, almost like everyone thinks comedy has to be something that's outside the box. Like nobody thinks they could just tell jokes anymore. Everyone thinks they have to. It's either like lots of characters or. Or like weird props. Like it's like I love that. I think Dimitri Martin kind of opened this box towards like visual stuff on stage, and like people kind of are starting to overuse it now. Like it's almost becoming hack.
Yeah, I agree. I think that box got opened and nobody knows how to shut it. But I don't know, man. I think it, like anything else, it'll swing. It'll swing back and forth. Between that stuff, I might come back to being a little bit more reined in at some point. Who knows? I think. I think. It's like you made it. I think some people it just reeks of trying too hard when you do that. And I know because that's what I did when I first started out. I was like trying to be the king of inaccessible material. I did so much anti-comedy. I did so much of this anti-comedy stuff. And it was the kind of classic thing where it's like, I felt like that's not what I was trying to do. I'm like, I'm not trying to be this for this sake. I think I had a picture in my head of what I was trying to achieve, but I had absolutely no way of figuring out how to do it. So after a while, that kind of gave way to not doing that anymore. But yeah, I was trying real hard to be as outside of the box as possible.
All right, so you say you grew up in the South Bay, or you were living in the South Bay when you started? Are you from out there? Like, did you grow up in that area, or?
No, I grew up in Southern California. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. And then I moved to the east. I moved to Pleasanton when I was about 16. So I did a fair amount of growing up, too, in the Bay Area. But yeah, I mean it's really I lived in Pleasanton through like high school and stuff, and then I moved down to San Jose for school, and then eventually up to San Francisco, and now it's New York.
Yeah. So is that why you went the New York route, because you grew up in Southern California?
Yeah, kind of. I think those are the two options. There's part of me, the last handful of years I've been coming out here a couple of times a year. And, I got this bug to be like, before I die, I just kind of want to live out here. And there's just so much to do stand-up wise here. It's ridiculous. And, I just been in California and LA my whole life. I just was really curious about living on the East Coast. And then an opportunity came up, and we moved out here.
Nice. How long have you been married?
Coming up on 8 years.
Okay, wow. I'll be at 1 year. I think like a couple days before this goes live. I think my anniversary is on the 21st of this month. So I'm kind of like I'm amazed that we made it to 1 year without like just killing each other.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
So I'm just like, so the prospect of 8 years is just like, it feels like looking at the monolith in 2001. Just Jesus, like I don't know how I'm going to get there. But it's funny. My wife is cartoonishly supportive of what I do. I almost don't know what to do with it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, she legitimately believes in my career. I don't know if I legitimately believe in my career anymore, but she does.
Yeah, well, there's a sucker born every minute. I'm sure she's a nice person, but
Yeah.
I got a bridge to sell her. I don't know. I think that's just part of being a comic and dealing with like self-confidence issues. My lady, has been beyond supportive of me the entire time. Like the same thing where it's like, I feel like, are you sure you want to do this? Because I think there's a big part of having going through the process and understanding what it is to do what we do, and how much of a cowboy solo kind of demand the career has. Any opportunity, you think about like, God, why would I want to rope somebody else in on this? And then you find somebody who's like, oh, I'll do it. You don't have to rope me in. I love you, and I'll just throw myself in with you. And you're like, God, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
I know, right?
And here I am doing it to the one I love.
Yeah,
but she's amazing, and she's been with me the whole time. So
yeah, like my wife's a functioning member of society. I don't know what yours does, but yeah, my wife's has like a real job and real responsibilities and lives in like a real 9-to-5 world, and me and you just do not. We're always on the road, always out late doing shows, things like that, and yeah, like it's interesting. I'm looking forward to to finally figuring out where her limit is, and having a stern conversation about how much time I spend traveling or things like that. Like, I'm sure she'll be completely supportive still, but I'm just like, I realize that the realities of being a father and a husband are gonna start closing in more soon, I imagine.
Oh yeah, they are. It's a lot, man. It's like, especially now, that I've been at it 8 months. It's like, it's like having 2 full-time jobs. On top of I do some other work sometimes too. So sometimes it's like having 3 full-time jobs, and that's a lot.
Yeah, it's like I find myself not having the time to go out and like break in jokes as often as I used to and things like that. And so I'm worried that also it's gonna affect my comedy in a different way. Like because my comedy comes out of a very angry place for the most part, and I'm really wondering that if it's gonna soften me up a little bit or things like that. Like if I'm gonna end up being Ray Romano 6 months from now or something.
Hey, you could do worse.
That's true. Yeah. Right now, I appeal to everybody who's too old to get up and go see live comedy. What was I going to say? I was going to ask you about the Conan spot. That was the most recent one you did, and it's really interesting because like I had I love it because the first time I ever saw you on TV, just besides having seen you live a ton of times, just from being SF. I love it. You did the Live at Gotham thing. You had the full beard still. You had the long hair and everything. And I just love that, like, it's such a... You completely just got rid of that look. Like,
yeah.
I remember when you first did it, I didn't recognize you. I ran into you somewhere, and I didn't even realize it was you, and had completely walked past you, I think. And then...
Yeah, it's debatable how good of a career move that was. But... it was interesting. I never meant for it to be as grandiose as it was on Gotham. I fully intended to get a haircut. It's a weird story. And then I chickened out, actually, because I got in my head that I was more worried. You know, I think everybody goes through the thing where they get the haircut, and it's like, you need a couple of day buffer to get used to your haircut, you know? Like, when you walk out of there, even if you feel like it's a good one, you get home and you look in the mirror and you're like, you just get these weird doubts and you're like, does this look terrible or good? I can't tell, you know? And I just, you know, I just freaked out and I didn't do it. And my hair and my beard were probably the longest they were. I look like a monster on there. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
And almost like self-fulfilling, like you said before. Now just you are proof that quote-unquote alternative comedy does not have to be beards and plaid shirts. Just completely clean-shaven now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to get kind of pigeonholed into a look. Like, I realized I had done that to myself with the way I dress on stage, like... Because nobody really does the suit and tie thing anymore, and I just always had it in my mind that that's what a comedian is supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. All these old school cats I used to, or still do, but just watch all the time, always in a suit and tie, always a very specific thing. I think it's why I do a lot of casino gigs now, is that my look is very appropriate for it. But whenever I'm on stage... and I'm not in the suit and tie, people are always, like, surprised or taken aback for some reason. Almost like I'm not a human being. Like, with other clothing and things like that. But it's funny, like, I've gotten to the point where, like, I'm kind of over the whole pageantry of it. Like, my comedy has become more personal. So it's like I'm not playing this, like, you know... Like, when I was originally in the suit and tie, I was playing this, like, almost satirical character of what I think someone who's, like... a financial district-y kind of businessman type would do. Like, that was kind of the idea I went with. And now that my stand-up has evolved into something more personal and more about myself, it's like, all right, I'll wear the suit and tie if I'm, like, headlining a show or something, but, you know, I'm not going to go hang out on a Sunday night at the Punchline in a suit for no reason. It's just not, you know, it's extraneous and stupid. But that was kind of like a choice I made early on because I thought that was going to set me apart. And it did to an extent, but... not in any ways that are overtly, you know, career affecting. Whereas in, like, your look was just, that was you. You just had this gigantic beard, gigantic hair. I still love that joke you used to do about it, is that you might recognize my my hair and my facial hair from the Old Testament. Like, I still love that joke. Like,
Thanks.
Like, your stand-up is very quotable. I gotta give you that. Like, you're one of those guys that people in San Francisco still talk about. Like, even since you left to New York, it's like Alex Koll's one of those units of measurement for comedy in San Francisco.
Oh, that's good to know. That's nice.
Oh yeah, you're a very well respected person in the stand-up community still, like, because like all the stuff that you and a bunch of those guys did, like the business is still going. You guys even franchised it, so you're doing one in New York now too, right?
Yeah, we lost we had a change in venue, and a couple of us went on the road and stuff like that. So we're kind of on hiatus right now, but they get back in, I think, the holidays and everything. Probably after the first of the year, we're going to try and start up again at a new spot. It's a good thing. We were kind of over where we were at. It wound up not really being the show 100% that we wanted it to be. So it'll be a good move.
So, for the people listening that aren't familiar with it, like, can you kind of explain how that kind of came about?
It's just me. Originally, it was a conversation between me and Bucky Sinister, who at the time he was just toying with stand-up. He comes from like a spoken word background. It was very funny, and he was moving, and he was legitimately. We were eating tacos, as you do, and he actually legitimately was like, I want to buy a storefront on Market Street and just leave the door open and let people come in, and I'm just going to do readings all day. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. But I'm looking for a place to do longer sets because, like, it was few and far between to do those. You can get a lot of small sets in SF. And I'm like, why don't we just go have these on, renting a theater space or something like that. Assume that we're not going to make money. Just treat it like it's a cell phone bill every month or something like that. And just, we kind of made this pact to say, like, every week, even if nobody shows up, like if 0 people show up, we still go up on stage and consider it like rehearsal. So we made this death pact, and somewhere along the line, we kind of roped in Sean Keane and Chris Garcia. That was it. We found the dark room directly across the street from Cancun, where we came up with the idea, and we were off. I mean, there was about a year of like awful shows. I mean, the prophecy came true. There was many shows where there was nobody, or there was one. If 4 people showed up, we called that a fair fight, because there were 4 of us and there were 4 people in the audience. But I don't think we've ever called the show one, no matter how low it got. So, somehow, after a while, we just kept doing it. It got slowly bigger until we wound up, the last few years, it was pretty much sold out almost every night. And it just became this place. I mean, it was not just a place for us to do longer sets, but I think all 4 of us wanted to try and also kind of experiment, kind of push what we were doing and just have a grand arena to fail, and run with that. It worked.
Yeah, I think that's a testament to what you guys did, is that, like, I feel like so many comics just go into trying to produce like a regular show of some kind, and most of them do it with the intent of trying to like make money or whatever. And the fact that you guys started that out from a creative place and a more artistic idea is kind of why it grew and why it's still around. Because I mean, how many years have you guys been doing it now?
I think it's almost 6. I know it's more than 5. I know we hit our 5th anniversary.
Yeah, that's like 12 in like comedy years.
Yeah.
Shows do not last long, especially shows that don't start out being instantly profitable.
Yeah. This is such a San Francisco attitude too. I mean, we were so laissez-faire about the whole thing. We were like, the other thing it just ran itself. I mean, we put time and effort into it, but we kept it so low key that it was just, it had its own perpetual motion. And I think that's what we all liked about it. I think we had this kind of rule that if it got to the point where we it was just too annoying to do it, that we wouldn't soldier on. We just, we're like, if anything comes up, let's just kill it. And, we haven't reached that point yet, but, better go out good than bad and just hang on to it. But, I think, we also started out, we wanted to make this sure the show was about us, that we were prominent on it, and that we were there every time. And even if we had guests on, the show was about the business, it was about the show. It wasn't just a showcase, it was a destination. It was its own thing. And, that's pretty much it. Just kind of keeping that. We decided that we were like going to make sure that it was a good show if we could, and not, we had to swallow, not our pride, but we just had to buck up and be like, we're not going to treat this like other showcases where it's like, you book me, I'll book you, and stuff like that. We're like, no, this is a show, and we're going to be a little more discerning about who we do have and who we don't have on.
I really liked the idea of this whole, like, almost this, for lack of a better term, this, like, comedy troupe of, like, the same guys, like, doing new material and experimenting. And, like, you guys, I'm sure you guys built up a good amount of regulars that would keep checking out the show.
Yeah, we did. We had a lot of folks come in and come back. We wound up with some fans. We had a fair amount of regulars. I mean, I've been around for a year, and I know they just switched venues, and they're trying to build back the momentum. But we had some followers over the years that we've done it. That was the thing. It's like, and people would always ask if we were a sketch group, and I think eventually, some folks called it like, and we eventually settled on a collective. We were all doing stand-up.
Yes.
But, one year I went to Chicago, and I was really impressed. Chicago's another big kind of comedy hub, and it's got a big stand-up scene, but also it's got a really long-standing, like, improv sketch and theater scene that's kind of integrated into it. And when I got there, and I did a bunch of these small bar shows and these small, local non-club shows, the thing that I kept seeing is that they all, even if it was in the back of a bar, even if it was like in a little theater that had another thing running there, that night it was that show. Like they had a person that helped them produce it. They had a backdrop. They had, this kind of music. It was a full thing, and a lot of them even had program. Like a lot of them ran seasons, like as if it were a theater kind of thing. And I thought that was really, really interesting. That it didn't matter if it was, at a laundromat or a coffee shop or a bar. That it wasn't that casual. That night it was that show. It was branded, it was presented, and it was formal. And I came back, and that's when we started doing like a really, we got the logo on lock, and I used to do a video, to show before and after the show and everything like that, and we kind of just solidified what it was.
Yeah, I think a lot of comics underestimate how the small little pieces of production value you put into like something like that really resonate with the audience.
Yeah, and talking about small, we like I said, we did the bare minimum.
Well, what's also nice is that doing something consistent like that is that you have to write. You can't do the same 15 minutes every week. Like, you have to be cranking out new material because there are people who see you every time you guys do this show.
Yeah, but yes and no. I think that's a little bit of a misconception. Like, as much as like you know they say that a band can play the same songs every night and people want to hear them over and over again. It's not the same jokes, but it's not the same exact audience every night. Even if we have regulars, and even if you have regulars, they may want to hear their favorites, or they may be bringing somebody and be like, "Oh, you got to hear this one." Yes, you with that much of regularity and that much pressure on ourselves to come up with new stuff, you want to do it. But that much turnover, we learned really quickly, is either it's a fantasy, but it's also just not the way the process works. I don't think that's anybody's process. It's this gradual build, and I think a lot of times comedians put the pressure on themselves that are like, oh, I can't do the same stuff here. I can't. And it's probably good. You probably should, and you don't want to rust. But I don't think so. We had the ones that we did every week. And you build notoriety, off that stuff. I mean, I watched Caitlin Guild. She had 2 bits that I would love to watch every week, and I was there every week, and just to watch her to build up the way she does, and it has this big, kind of like almost. I almost told her that she has kind of a preach vibe to what she does. She has this kind of. She almost performs, and it's like almost like a sermon. And I told her that one night, and she was like, well, that's what my mom does. And I'm like, oh, okay, that explains a lot.
Really? I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, and so, it's, I mean, like you said, with being quotable or something like that, there's, you're when those bits become where they're supposed to be, that's your wares, and you still want to shop your wares. It's even more so out here. Like the top of the top, like, I go, Hannibal Buress, when he's around, still does a show on Sunday nights at the Knitting Factory in Williamsburg. And, I've been over there a bunch of times, and he hosts it every time. And he does, still do a lot of stuff, and he does a lot of talking off the cuff. But, he does his material, even if at that show it's his, and people come repeatedly. I've seen him back to back do the same kind of bits every week because they work and they're good. You don't necessarily want to spit in the face of what's good.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I know of anyone who's seen me knows there's maybe like a 10 minutes of material that I'll still do all the time, and I wrote it 10 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
And I still love it. Like, there's a handful of one-liners and that I love them too much to stop doing them. It's not even a matter of being proud of them. They're just like, it's just this thing nostalgic and comforting almost, like.
Yeah. And the only people that know that they're 10 years old and that you've been doing them forever is you and a couple of comics in the back of the room.
Yeah.
And unfortunately now I think there's also like this kind of environment of like the comedy nerd. Like there's a little bit more of it that's like online of people who it was never like this, where there was so much scrutiny put on who's performing what and like talking about and nerding up about jokes, which is not terrible, but I think it gets a little incestual and a little, it eats its own tail sometimes.
Well, it's the whole blogosphere thing. It's like people can they can just talk about whatever they want, and people who might see you twice in like 6 months will all of a sudden write some huge seething post about how you don't write any new material and things like that, and it's the uneducated journalist. That's what drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's lame, and I know that all that stuff has helped boost a lot of people, but it's back and forth. It's a swinging door.
Yeah. All right. So when are you coming back out here to the West Coast?
Well, I'm doing the shows next weekend, the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd in Seattle at the Comedy Underground. And then I'm doing my one-night show in San Francisco at Doc's Lab on Monday the 24th. And that's going to be it for this year. And then it may be it for a little bit. I hope to get back out on the road soon after the first of the year through the holidays and everything like that. Mm. But it takes some doing to get back out to the West Coast now. And as much as that's where my heart is, and honestly a lot of work. It's a different game now. It's just the way it is. So hopefully through next year there'll be more opportunities that bring me out there.
Have you even seen Doc's Lab yet? Was it open the last time you were in town?
No, but everybody keeps talking nice stuff about it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It really is. I just did my first show there like a week and a half ago, and I thought it was going to be nostalgic for the Purple Onion. No, Doc's Lab completely blew it out of the water for me.
Good news.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful venue. It doesn't even look like the Purple Onion anymore. Like you wouldn't be able to recognize it. Yeah, I'm excited for your show because I'm going to come check it out. Because I always love catching you on stage whenever I can. So that's and that is once again. Tell me the date one more time.
It's Monday night, November 24th, 8 p.m. And we kept the door price pretty low so we can get a lot of butts in the seats. And then after all that ran, I am doing a big chunk of new material, but along with the faves, my barn busters, my club bangers.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for sitting down with me, man. We'll get this one out soon, so make sure everybody knows about your show. They know that you're coming back out to San Francisco, so they can get some more ticket sales and get some more people getting to appreciate you on stage. But I had a lot of fun, man. I'm glad we were able to sit down and chat like this.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. It was good talk.
So that was Alex Koll, everybody. Yeah. He's great. Very mellow, very collected, but hilarious. Alex Koll is someone I always love watching on stage. I have since I first started out. Brilliantly funny. Some of the best material I've heard in a long time. I know that. His Conan stuff was great. Live at Gotham stuff was great. All the stuff he did helping to create The Business, which is one of the best comedy showcases out of the Bay Area, which is now franchised in LA and New York. It will be in New York once the new year comes around. Go check those out. The Business SF and The Business LA are great shows. I've seen both of those, and they're awesome. And come see Alex November 24th at Doc's Lab in San Francisco. That is going to be an amazing show. It is going to be a hilarious Bay Area comedian doing a home show, which is always great. Best energy, best audiences. It's going to be a show that you do not want to miss. Also, just for the weekend before that, he will be in the Seattle Comedy Underground. Go check that out too. That'll be a really great show. It's a beautiful venue. I love that place. Alex Koll. Find him at Alex Koll on Twitter, alexkoll.com. He also has his first album available on his website, which is called Wizard Hello. The album, not the website. And I enjoyed talking to him. It was nice. Alex Koll is someone who I've always enjoyed watching on stage, but never really got to chat with and get to know a little bit until now. So I'm glad we got to do that. I'm glad we got to sit down. November 24th, Doc's Lab. See him there. Also, you guys can see me this Tuesday night. Yes, Tuesday night at the Punchline in San Francisco. Yes, the San Francisco Punchline, my lovely home club I love more than life itself. I'm going to be there on the 18th, which is this coming Tuesday, for the Avengers of Comedy. Yes, that is a thing. The Avengers of Comedy. My good friend Dash Kwiatkowski. he puts on this great recurring showcase at the Punchline called The Adventures of Comedy, and me and him are good friends, and we're both gigantic comic book nerds, and he finally penciled me into it. I'm excited. Yeah, we've been talking about having me on one of those Avengers of Comedy shows for a while, and we're finally going to get to, so I'm excited. If you go online, you can see the poster for it is always great, because they actually just take a really awesome comic book cover, and they just draw the faces of said comedians that are on the lineup into the characters, and it's amazing. And I got to be Agent Venom, which tickled my fancy a little bit. I should have asked to be Daredevil, but it didn't occur to me to do so. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Avengers of Comedy. Tickets are actually surprisingly inexpensive, especially for the Punchline. And so check them out, punchlinecomedyclub.com. That's where you can get tickets. Or you can just find the ticket link on my website, gregasdourian.com. You can also go there for all of your NQF podcast needs. You can email me there. You can email the podcast there. Throw suggestions. Throw things you enjoyed. Things you've checked out because you heard them on the podcast. I always love hearing about that kind of stuff. You can follow me on the Twitters at Greg Asdourian. You can follow the NQF Pod on Twitter at NQF Pod. You can also follow our guest, as I mentioned before, at Alex Koll. Follow him on there. Once again, the music, as always, was done by the one and only, amazingly talented, and absolutely hilarious individual in his own right, Rob Dillinger. You find him at robdillinger.com, at Rob Dillinger on the tweets. You can find us on Facebook.com. Oh my god, Facebook. I almost forgot Facebook. Facebook.com/NQFpod or Facebook.com/Greg Asdourian if you want to find me on there. Like a bitch. It'll be great. But yes, sorry again this took so long for this one to come out. But it is worth it. Alex Koll was awesome. And I'll see you guys next week. Hopefully I'll catch you at the Punchline, or I'll be there watching Alex Koll at Doc's Lab on November 24th. Be there.